Welcome to our quick start guide for Unholy Death Knight in Mists of Pandaria. This video is going to cover everything that you need to know for setting up your character, which includes the best race, the best talents, glyphs, gear, professions, macros, and so much more. But first, let's talk about what's new and what to expect from your spec in PvP. Now, if you want to play a spec with unrivaled pressure, then look no further than Unholy DK. This iteration of the spec is definitely strong, with tons of damage potential. Now, the way Unholy DK works in MoP is fairly interesting, to be honest here. Now, of course, you have the iconic Necrotic Strike to apply pressure, but the path to get out those Necrotics has changed, as now Icy Touch, Blood Boil, and Festering Strike can give you death runes. So in some ways, this gives Unholy DK a sort of builder-spender system, alternating between building death runes and then spending them consistently on Necrotic, all while managing dots and doing a bit of pet maintenance in the process. Now, as an Unholy DK, there is a lot of potential min-maxing built around your burst. If you line everything up, including your procs and CC, you can deal devastating damage to the enemy team. But if you fumble your all-ins, then you might fail to reach your true potential. Learning how to manage your burst is going to be a huge learning curve for picking up this spec. But before we start with all that, this is just the first part in our Mists of Pandaria series. Our complete courses, including healing, damage, and playstyle guides, they are all available exclusively at skillcap.com. For the past few months, we've been working alongside the best and the most dedicated players ever in Mists of Pandaria. And right now, you can get ahead of 90% of players instantly thanks to our revamped courses, which teach you literally everything you need to know. And that's why we continue to offer a 400 rating gain guarantee across all of our games. So whether you want to experience MoP Classic or hop into retail, be sure to click the discount link below in order to get started. But for now, let's get back to the video. Alright, so it is time to make the very first decision before you even step foot into the game. Picking your race. Racials, they matter a lot in Classic, and MoP is no different. If you plan on playing Alliance, then Human is best without question. In fact, for many DPS, this is going to be the best race in the entire game. Now, why is that? Well, thanks to the Will to Survive racial, humans are able to wear 2 damage trinkets, which is a really big deal since trinket procs and effects represent a massive power spike. Now, if you want to play Horde though, Orc is definitely your best option there. Hardiness is arguably the best racial passive in the game, offering 15% stun reduction, which even stacks with similar effects. Not to mention Blood Fury, which is also a huge power spike, acting as a pseudo on-use trinket. But now, let's talk about talents and glyphs, which both received an overhaul going into the expansion and are now much more streamlined. For our first row, we're going to be playing Rolling Blood in the vast majority of games, and simply put, this talent makes it much easier to spread our dots. However, if we're playing a comp like DK Hunter or DK Mage, we should swap to Plague Leech to prevent breaking CC. For our next row, we're always going to play Lichborn. Not only is this going to give us Fear Breaker and immunity, but it'll also allow us to heal ourselves with Death Coil. Super dynamic cooldown here. Then for our level 45 talents, we're going to soft lock Chillblains. This is great against slippery targets like mages, and ideal when you already have a stun effect on your team. Now, with that said, though, if your team lacks a stun for the kill target, as is the case when you're playing with a hunter, you should play Asphyxiate. This is going to give you a powerful 30-second go. For our next row, we do have a little bit of flexibility here. Death Pact is a great general option, especially when we are not the kill target, as this is going to give us an on-demand heal when needed. However, if you're playing against a dot comp, you can swap to Conversion. This is going to nerf your damage, but will provide you with a steady stream of healing. For our next row, we're going to play Blood Tap. This is going to smooth out our rotation and give us more consistency with how and when we can Necrotic Strike. And finally, we're always going to play with Desecrated Ground. This is not only a CC breaker, but also gives us CC immunity, which we often use offensively in order to do unpeelable pressure. Now, as far as glyphs are concerned, we'll always play with Icy Touch. We're going to be pressing this button a lot, and getting a bonus Dispel tied into it is good in almost every single matchup. Then we have 2 soft lock glyphs, the first being Anti-Magic Shell, which makes AMS absorb all magic damage, and then we can soft lock Glyph of Dark Sim, which is great for sniping CC like Poly, Hex, and Fear, and can even be used to steal major defensives like Bubble and Ice Block. Then we have a few flexible glyphs that we can swap in here depending on the matchup. If there are no casters on the enemy team, we can drop AMS to Shifting Presence. But if there are casters but we aren't the kill target, we can instead swap it for Regenerative Magic, giving us a shorter potential cooldown on AMS. We then have an offensive glyph option with Strangulate. This is great for training down healers, especially in 2v2. And speaking of 2v2, we can swap to Glyph of Unholy Frenzy, specifically against double DPS teams to have slightly more bulk if needed. Now we're not done yet, as we do have some minor glyphs that actually matter here, including Death's Embrace and Resilient Grip. Do make sure to slot these in, as they both affect combat. But now it's time to move on to the exciting bit of this course, gearing your character. Now luckily there is absolutely no PvE involved here. First though, let's talk about our stat priority, which will affect the pieces that we buy and how we gem and enchant them. Strength is the most important stat overall, as it's not only going to have a direct impact on all of your damage, but it'll also increase your parry. Then we're going to want to reach the 3% hit cap and the baseline 3% expertise soft cap. Then as far as secondaries go, Mastery is the most consistent, giving us a flat shadow damage increase. Crit is also good too, and we can afford to drop a bit of Mastery if we're playing with another spec that provides a Mastery buff. And finally, we have Haste, which we're going to be reforging out of, as it is our least desirable stat. MoP also introduces two new stats, PvP Resilience, which reduces damage taken from enemy players, and PvP Power, which increases healing and your damage done to other players. Both of these stats occur naturally on PvP gear, and they're the reason why all of your best in-slot gear will be from PvP. While they are important, you really don't need to worry about them when gearing. Like most expansions, you're going to start by collecting full honor gear while gradually farming Conquest every week to replace each slot with higher item level epics. Now luckily, the stats on items offered in each slot are exactly the same, so with all that in mind, let's break down our BIS lists. For our main set pieces, we're going with all 5 pieces of the Dreadplate set. Then we're going to get the Proficiency Neck, Cloak of Prowess, Bracers of Alacrity, Belt of Prowess, Boots of Cruelty, and then the only 2 PvP rings, Accuracy and Cruelty. Then for our weapon, make sure to get the Sword if Human, or the Axe if Orc for the bonus expertise. Then for trinkets, get both the Badge and Insignia of Victory as Human, and as an Orc, get the Insignia with the PvP Medallion that has Critical Strike. Luckily, enchants are pretty streamlined in MoB. For our weapon, we're going to be using the Rune of Fallen Crusader on the first 2-handed weapon we buy. Then later on, when we can afford a second one, we can use Rune of Sword Shattering against teams with disarm effects if needed. Then for our high-ticket enchants, we're going to get the Greater Tiger Fang inscription for our shoulders, and then the Angerhide leg armor on our legs. Then, going through our minor enchants, unless we're a tailor, we're going to get the Superior Critical Strike on our cloak, and no matter what, we'll get glorious stats on our chest, and exceptional strength on our bracers, and super strength on our gloves. And finally, for our boots, we recommend Pandaren Step for extra movement speed and increased mastery. As far as gems are concerned, it's pretty simple. Get as much strength as possible while sticking to stat priorities. In every red socket, we're going to use bold primordial rubies. Then in yellows, we'll use skillful vermilion onyx if we're running a mastery build, or inscribed vermilion onyx if we want more crit. Finally, our blue sockets will be comprised of tense imperial amethyst. And don't forget here, you get an extra prismatic socket in your belt with the living steel belt buckle. You'll then need to decide what you want for your meta gem, and there are a few different routes that you can take here. By default, we'll go for the reverberating primal diamond for a huge boost to our damage. Otherwise, if we want more consistent defensive bulk, we can get the powerful primal diamond for its 10% stun reduction, which is good against Windwalker monks, rogues, and even mages. So once you have everything geared and enchanted, be sure to head over to the Reforger to fine-tune your stats. We're going to stick to our stat priority here, making sure we've reached that 3% cap on hit, and then reforging out of haste wherever we can, converting it into mastery. But now let's talk about professions, which are very important in Mists of Pandaria. Since we want the biggest goes as an Unholy DK, we're going to keep things pretty simple and get tailoring no matter what for the Cloak Enchant and Engineering for an extra burst cooldown. Remember, stacking modifiers is crucial for our spec. Now, normally here we would give you some macros, but to make things even easier, we've got everything you need on our article site. There you can literally copy-paste each macro one by one instead of needing to manually type in-game. But before we go, you really don't want to miss this opportunity to get a massive head start on the competition with our 400 rating gain guarantee. Our courses and arena commentaries, they literally have everything you need to help you reach your goals. Regardless of how easy or how hard your class is to play, we've got you covered here. So head on over to skillcap.com and sign up today to start your journey to Gladiator.